destination. Don't tell me about your exceptions. There are very few athletes or entertainers who care if your children follow Jesus. They just don't. Please choose the influencers wisely. Billy shared with me he recently bought Aiden a Carson Wentz jersey from the old team. I said, that's really cool. Forget about who he plays for. Let's see who he lives for. And I know who Carson Wentz lives for. As an older teenager, along with the godless rock stars, I also followed a guy named Dave Taylor. Dave was my much older chemical engineer friend, and Dave liked music, had a great stereo with Bose speakers, which were really cool, and he had a Mustang. Dave took me for motorcycle rides, shared albums with me, asked me to help him on projects. Dave was cool. We talk about everything: music, sports, cars, girls, life. We spent a lot of time together. Dave might have said the exact same thing as my dad, but you can guess who I would rather have heard it from. Dave had a lot of influence in my life. He was like an older brother for me. I loved Dave, still do. I wanted to be like Dave in many ways. Oh, and I forgot to tell you the best part. Dave was devoted to Jesus. We have some guys like that here. Some Daves. There might even be a Dave Good like that. I wanted to be like Dave, so it was a good thing he was following Jesus. I'm sure that Dave came into my life because my dad was praying for me and God connected me with Dave. So I was blessed to have Dave in my life. And Dave was trying to follow in the master's steps, and he made sure that I knew it. And that was a big deal for me. Do your kids have a role model who is like that? Do they have a role model who would say something like this? My feet have closely followed his steps. I have stayed on his path. I have kept his commands. I have treasured his words above all. As we were raising our girls when they were little, we tried to practice what I'm sharing. Now, honestly, you know we didn't do it perfectly, but we did try very hard. And in the 90s, all the females at our house were really into a Christian singer named Michael W. Smith. I know at least one person in the room knows who that is. Well, the Embrys are here today, and I know you know who that is. But the fact that he was hot to the girls, including Beth, who liked him, that's not why I framed pictures of him and posters of him, even for our family room and the girls' bedroom walls. I did it because I knew that Michael was following Jesus. And I also knew that he wanted our girls to follow Jesus. Did Cheap Trick ever do that for me? The answer is no, not even close. So we went out of our way and spent a lot of time and money to connect with Michael W. Smith. Both of our girls went to several of his concerts. They both got to have a face-to-face meeting with Michael because we drove all the way to Grand Rapids and waited 2 hours for a chance to talk to him for a minute. It's really cool stuff, and he's a great guy. And then one night, Miranda, our oldest, got to sing a praise song on stage at a concert with Michael. And I'm so thankful that Michael tried to stay on God's path. He helped us parent for a season, and that was really cool. And you find people like Michael W. Smith at church. That's where I met Dave, and that's where our daughters met Tammy Allen and Noreen Riley. I did Noreen's funeral when she was 99 years old. Cool lady. Noreen became one of our daughter's biggest fans. There were no posters of Noreen on the walls, but she was certainly a godly influence, impacting our daughter's life for many years with his steps. We were blessed to have Noreen as one of the many people that we could have influence our kids with a follow Jesus in me message. And then on Sundays, while people were standing around talking, a lot of times after church, you might have spotted our youngest sitting in a pew with Tammy Allen. She was a family friend and a devoted follower of Christ. And that picture is actually Tammy and her husband Mike at a purity ceremony we did for our youngest daughter. Pretty cool stuff. We built a relationship with Tammy over the years and her family, and she often made time to intentionally enter into both of our daughters' lives. Tammy followed closely in his steps, and she was a great blessing to our parenting. She helped us a lot. And you know, as I was preparing this and talking about these women and thinking about them, my mind went to Three Chopped and people like Brooke Moran and Sherry Huff and Patty Vogt and others here who have done that kind of ministry for the daughters of Three Chopped. Good stuff. Powerful stuff. And a sidebar, I just need to throw this in because everything doesn't come from your church family. There are lots of good materials out there, hundreds of books that can help you get wonderful insights for growing and creating godly parenting steps. Here are a couple. For most of my life, I was reading the girl parenting books, like the one that's got the woman on it. I did, dad of daughter ones all the time, but since I now have grandsons, I've recently checked out this book, King Me, and I got a lot of powerful stories for parenting boys. So dads of all ages, I don't care how old you are as a dad, you might want to check it out. King Me is a cool resource. I hope that everyone has been encouraged or challenged a little bit today to double down on following in his steps. But for parents, please, it's so critical that you work on these things as we close. Be in the Word more than any other good pursuit. There are lots of good pursuits. Be in the Word more than any other good pursuit. Spend time with your kids so they experience your steps. Identify the influences that will direct them to Him, and connect your kids with people who are walking on His path. Some of them are in this room. The path wins every single time. So choose to walk in His steps.